This isn't a review of the game because I'm not done with it yet. Later on when I'm finished, I definitely will make a final review, but for right now I want to talk about the controversy surrounding this game, if you can even call it that, because a lot of people are idiots, and I tried to stay quiet because telling the idiots that they are in fact idiots usually causes them to harass you, and the people who are outraged over this are a joke. Their logic is non-existent. I mean, maybe they're just doing it for profit, which seems more and more likely because, I mean, intellectually, no one can defend the positions that these people are taking to criticize this game. Like, it's indefensible, but whatever. They're just a new, morally self-obsessed version of the same problem that video games have been grappling with for so many years, which is people that don't even play the games trying to dictate what's in those games. It is, with as much emphasis as I can possibly put on this word, dumb. It is dumb. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, obviously.
What's up, guys? I hope y'all are having a great day today, just full of so much positivity and happiness, dude, because this is going to be a real trip down memory lane for some of you guys, because it has been a hot minute since I've done a good old-fashioned response video to just a really bad YouTube video that I've seen, and I think there's no better way to return to this style of content than to revisit one of my personal favorite content creators I've ever made a YouTube video on, the ever so pretentious Upper Echelon Gamers, or I guess as he's known today, Upper Echelon. And well, he recently uploaded a video surrounding the controversy of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and the only way I can describe this video is disingenuous at best. Like, he is deliberately misrepresenting what the overall complaints surrounding this game are by a very large number of people who actually enjoyed the original game compared to the second one. And instead, he takes a few fringe idiots on Twitter and uses their retarded arguments to group everybody together into the same boat to try and dispel the controversy by completely strawmanning what exactly it is people are upset about and never actually addressing the main points of concern that people had with the game. And this is basically par for the course, because I've already made a video on this guy in the past surrounding his Doom Eternal review, which was absolutely hilarious. So this is of a similar vein. You will definitely detect the similarities if you remember that video. So I don't really think we need much more of an introduction here, guys. I think we should probably just go ahead and take a look at this absolute masterpiece of a YouTube video. So without further ado, sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and let's go ahead and get right into this shit.
This video is brought to you by Surfshark. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire Upper Echelon community. Okay, just to make something clear right off the bat, this isn't a review of the game because I'm not done with it yet.
Yeah, just make sure you bear that little factoid in mind when we talk about the game going forward. He does not know everything that's in this game because he has not completed it yet. And I would assume maybe just because he wants to avoid spoilers, he doesn't know what a lot of people are talking about. I think that's being overly generous of myself, but yeah, just keep that in mind. He doesn't even know the full story yet.
Later on when I'm finished, I definitely will make a final review, but for right now I want to talk about the controversy surrounding this game, if you can even call it that, because a lot of people are idiots, and I tried to stay quiet because telling the idiots that they are in fact idiots usually causes them to harass you.
I mean, we're already off to a great start here, man, because if you dare to challenge his superior intellect, dude, you're obviously just an idiot, man, and it's not worth his time, typically, to address those pesky idiots who disagree with him. I mean, he's just so above it all, guys. He truly transcends the need for gaming discourse or a disagreement of ideals, because, let's be honest, he's never wrong. And this is the exact same energy he possessed back in 2020 when he reviewed Doom Eternal and got pissed off with the community surrounding that game. So yeah, I'm glad to see that some things change, but others remain the fucking same. You know, calling people idiots within the first 30 seconds of your YouTube video that disagree with you is definitely a great way to convince them that you're actually right in the situation.
But considering the fact that the original Kingdom Come Deliverance game was a pretty big moment for my entire channel, I figured what the hell, I might as well just do it. Here's the background.
I mean, I would never accuse someone of being a shill with unfounded evidence, but it does seem like he does have a legitimate financial interest in this game doing well.
Kingdom Come Deliverance, developed by Warhorse Studios, is an open-world, story-driven RPG, which was almost universally praised when it first came out in 2018.
You know, call me crazy, but I don't really think a 76 is an accurate portrayal of universal acclaim. And on top of that, if you remember the events surrounding the launch of Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 back in the day, the game's media was actually harshly criticizing the game for only featuring white in-game characters, and as a result was harshly criticized for that fact, and we'll get into that a little bit later. It's about to come up.
I played it, I loved it, and I also got to see in real time how the game was attacked for somehow failing to conform in terms of modern expected narrative themes. As an example of that, we can look at Eurogamer, which essentially panned the game, saying, quote, "There's also a big problem. There are no people of color in the game," end quote. Even going on to individually target the game's creative director, Daniel Vavra, calling him a vocal supporter of Gamergate, and doubling down on the idea that exclusion is a form of racism. Ergo, Kingdom Come Deliverance, by not having more black people, de facto makes the game racist. That is quite obviously on its face absurd, especially when you consider the fact that the setting for this game is the medieval kingdom of Bohemia, which was not a diverse place in any sense of the modern word.
What's funny about this, in his own review 6 years ago, he acknowledges the fact that this controversy is what pushed a lot of people into the franchise and made them fans of the game in the first place, because they saw a developer and a studio that were willing to stand by what they believed in pursuit of a historically accurate game and portrayal of the setting, that they decided to spend their money in order to try the game out and support somebody who was not catering to the leftist gaming journos that hate any type of game that doesn't meet a diversity quota. So for him to basically betray the fans and walk back his statement where he says, quote, "There were no black people in medieval Bohemia, period," that in and of itself is a betrayal to the people who you acknowledge got into this game in the first place because of the controversy surrounding this very specific issue.
With any game out there comes a spritz of controversy. The game was accused of a racist narrative by not including diversity in a medieval Bohemian landscape. I won't dissect the ethnic population distribution at the contemporary time because, for starters, it would be a massive undertaking, and I am no expert on that subject. But all signs I have found point to this being relatively historically accurate, though perhaps not an absolute certainty, and it was done with no possible ill will or conscious bias. If anything, that burst of tension at and surrounding launch just brought more publicity to the game, and while some came for the potential controversy, many also stayed for the unique, rewarding, and ambitious game that it is.
So keep this little tidbit in mind as he moves forward and completely ignores the valid criticisms that people have surrounding Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and its retcons, and instead decides to hyperfixate on a couple retards on Twitter in order to paint the entire group of people who don't like the decisions made in this particular game as nothing more than a bunch of dumbasses who don't know how to tie their own shoe. I mean, this is the pure definition of straw manning an argument that we're about to witness here.
But the thing that I want to focus on is a top-down expectation of control. If you want a much more recent example of this phenomenon, look no further than Hogwarts Legacy, which was boycotted because of J.K. Rowling's allegedly transphobic opinions, but that boycott, and there's huge air quotes around that word, ultimately failed to impact the game whatsoever.
Yeah, this is a terrible example to compare to Kingdom Come Deliverance because Hogwarts Legacy was boycotted because people didn't like J.K. Rowling. It had absolutely nothing to do with the game itself, the lore inside of the game, or anything to do with the actual development of said game. The only problem people had is the fact that they bought a license from J.K. Rowling. That is literally it. The game itself had all the type of shit that the very people boycotting the game would have liked themselves, so that was the irony of the Hogwarts Legacy boycott. It had absolutely nothing to do with the content of the game is the main point here. In terms of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, it has everything to do with the type of content that's in the game and the massive retcons and walkbacks that the developer made compared to the first game that are in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So it is a completely opposite scenario. The boycott of Hogwarts Legacy had absolutely nothing to do with the game itself. The people who are not happy about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 have a problem with the actual game itself, not the person who made the IP that's being licensed.
As it went on to become a massive commercial success because it was a good game. See, that's really what people care about in this industry. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, obviously. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. Because a lot of people are idiots, and I tried to stay quiet because telling the idiots that they are, in fact, idiots usually causes them to harass you. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, obviously.
Ironic.
But what people truly want is a good, well-made, fun gameplay experience, and if they get one, they don't really care about the politics or the social issues. Take Baldur's Gate 3, for example. That game has a metric ton of what people refer to as woke narrative options, especially in the romance category, but the sheer depth of choice, the scale of the world, the amount of options that you have on what or when or why you do something is practically unparalleled in the entire gaming industry, which completely overrides any sort of outrage campaign, because when you peel back all of the individual layers, what people really want, that is, the people that actually play the games, is just a good, well-made, enjoyable experience.
Again, this is another false equivalency because Baldur's Gate 3 and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 are completely different things. Baldur's Gate 3 is a choose-your-own-adventure game where your choices impact the overall story completely. In Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you play as a preset character that already has an established lore and predetermined story surrounding him. And if you don't believe me, let's go ahead and read the actual quote from Warhorse Studios that will come into play a little bit later, because trust me, it's going to be a topic that we're going to have to talk about in response to someone asking about gay relationships in the game. And it says, same-sex romance, no, you will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith from Silver Scalus, and he already does have a backstory in which he is not bi or homosexual. This is not the same thing as Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is all about your choices. Kingdom Come Deliverance is all about experiencing Henry's story, and his overall decisions do not have a massive impact on the overall plot progression. You're basically a side character at best who's witnessing these events firsthand. You're not directly impacting them, and that is the massive difference and major false equivalency. We're talking about a character that is already canonically straight being retconned to have gay romance options versus a create-your-own character, choose-your-own-adventure type game. These are not the same things. And it's beyond disingenuous to act that way. You know, maybe he's not being disingenuous in this one instance. You know, I'll extend a little bit of grace, but in all honesty, man, I highly fucking doubt it, because the rest of this video is exactly just that.
To be clear, I can fully understand why people get upset if it feels like a game was somehow sacrificing a piece of its core identity for the purpose of pushing social and political narratives. God knows, The Last of Us 2 is a brutal example of that, in my opinion. And I've made that argument myself in the past several times for different titles. But hopefully by the end of this video, I'll be able to showcase that this, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, really isn't one of those cases.
Uh-oh, spoiler alert, guys. You know, he barely does, if ever at all, actually address the genuine complaints about this game, and instead uses two idiots to try and strawman the entire argument against it. Shocking.
Kingdom Come Deliverance, the original, despite being an undeniably successful product, was vocally criticized by a small group of people over its lack of in-game diversity. But 7 years later, with the sequel, it's now being criticized by the flip side of that very same coin, a smaller group of extremely vocal people, not for its lack of diversity or inclusion, but rather because of it.
Is he going to expand upon these topics and actually let us know precisely what it is people are arguing against?
Primarily its inclusion of certain romance options, which is one of the most painful displays of self-exposing idiocy that I've possibly ever seen in my time on YouTube.
Okay, so retconning the sexuality of a character and going back on what they previously stated before, which again, you know, let me go ahead and read it again. You will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith from Silver Scalus, and he already does have a backstory in which he is not a bisexual or homosexual, but there will be homosexual NPCs in the game. Nobody will force you to do anything, but you will play as Henry, the son of a blacksmith, and yes, he is straight and white and male and from Bohemia. So So let me get this straight. Not only did people not care about the inclusion of gay NPCs in the first game, so that entire argument is out the fucking window. It more so has to do with the fact that it's because of the retconning of the existing lore surrounding the character. If this was an option from the beginning in the first game and the developer didn't make it a point to come out and make statements like this, maybe people wouldn't have an issue with it. But when you get acquired by Embracer Group, which is known for being one of the most progressive and left-leaning companies in the video game industry, it's not really too crazy to think that as soon as you get acquired by them, the sequel to the game that established this lore retcons it that maybe something is afoot here. But nah, dude, don't ask questions, just consume the product, am I right? The Overton window truly has shifted, man. You know, when everything's woke, I guess nothing is by definition.
So what are people mad about? Well, there's a few things, but mostly people are angry that the game contains a romance option where Henry, the main character that you play, can sleep with Hans, his friend. On a personal note, I think Hans is just a completely obnoxious character. So in my playthrough, I'm insulting him and calling him pretentious or insignificant is a specific one that comes to mind every single chance I get. Obviously, I'll never experience the romance dialogue because I deliberately tank my reputation with him. But even if you tried to find this dialogue on purpose, it's one scene in a game that has like over 100 hours of content.
This is such a stupid argument, bro. Like, you know, just ignore everything, guys. You know, you could have the most vile stuff imaginable, like EDP level stuff, and that's A-okay because it's only one scene, right? I mean, obviously that's an extreme example, but just don't care about anything, guys. It doesn't matter. It's just a tiny portion of the greater product. Don't have any standards and just consume, bro. Who cares if the developers lied to you? Who cares if they retconned the lore surrounding two main characters in the second game compared to the first? You know, don't care about anything. Just buy the game and play it. And the funny thing is too, if it's such an insignificant portion of the game that makes no difference, why did they need to include it in the first place? And that's where this entire argument always falls apart. If it's truly so insignificant, why bother even putting it in the game in the first place? Why did they make a concerted effort to retcon established lore that they defended publicly in the past if it didn't matter? And that's not even taking into account the fact that Vavra lied about this inclusion of this content leading up to launch. He flat out denied its existence and then later had to admit it was real when people got their hands on the game. So there is multiple layers to this entire situation, and it's disingenuous as fuck to pretend, oh, people are just mad about an option in a video game, dude.
The thing is, people really care about this. And the rumors about this game being woke have been circulating since well before it ever released.
Well, it turns out that pretty much every single rumor was true. I was using air quotes, by the way, but yeah, you can't see them.
Here's some slop article right here about how the game is reportedly banned in Saudi Arabia, which says, quote, "It seems like the highly anticipated title is promoting an agenda via unskippable cutscenes, which has caused Saudi Arabia to ban it in the country," end quote. But if you have any understanding of this franchise whatsoever, you would know that 0 cutscenes in either product, the first or the second one, are unskippable. Not to mention the fact that the game has not actually been banned in Saudi Arabia.
I mean, I'll give him the point on the cutscene. I mean, that's a minor detail, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I do believe this game is banned in Saudi Arabia. I mean, if somebody would like to clarify, I have seen conflicting reports on this. I've seen a screenshot, which I'll put up on screen right now, of the game not being able to be purchased on the Saudi Arabian PlayStation Network. So take that as you will. I mean, there is like some validity to that. The game was taken down for at least some period of time where it was not available for purchase right around the time that this news broke. So I don't live in Saudi Arabia, so I can't confirm, and I've seen conflicting reports online, but I could definitely imagine it would be the case if there is a gay romance scene in the game, which we know does exist, which Vavra lied about and said did not exist, only for him to later come out and admit that it did exist.
Still, truth be damned, now that the game is finally released, you have people like this guy. Quote, "Gamers, our boycott against Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is working. Huge victory. The game is already trending down a mere 7 hours after launch. Get woke, go broke. Gamers are tired of LGBTQ propaganda in games," end quote. Except, wait a second, because he took the snapshot when people were going to bed.
And here comes the example that he's going to hyperfixate on to paint the entire crowd who's not happy about the changes in this game as a bunch of brain-dead idiots. Like, yeah, obviously this guy has no fucking understanding of how Steam charts work. Who fucking cares? He's some random idiot on the internet. And personally, I have not really seen people calling for boycotts of this game. I mean, personally, I'm not. I have issues, obviously, with the retcons and everything like that, and I won't be financially supporting the game myself, but I've never called for people to boycott it. I think it's fine for you to want to play a game despite its issues or whatever. My problem is with the people who refuse to acknowledge the genuine complaints people have with this game, like Upper Echelon, for example. I don't give a fuck if people buy and enjoy the game or not, and I don't really care if people boycott it or not. Personally, I'm not going to spend my money on it, and that's really all the control I have in the situation.
Which is a cycle that you can see borne out on every single game on all of Steam. Since that day, the game has reached progressively new concurrent high player counts every single day afterward, so far peaking at almost 250,000 at one time. In the first 24 hours, the game sold over 1 million copies, which is twice as many in half the time compared to the original, by the way. And when you contrast that with its development budget, which was something like $40 million for the sequel, the game is already earning tens of millions in profit very easily. You might be thinking, well, that guy was probably joking because no one is that stupid. But you'd be wrong, because he doubled down the next day saying, quote, "Guess what? Kingdom Come 2 is trending downwards again, LOL. I don't think this game is turning a profit anytime soon. Get woke, go broke. 100% non-binary," as like a little stupid joke, end quote. Once again, you're probably thinking, no one on planet Earth is that fucking stupid.
Oh no, there are plenty of people on planet Earth that are that stupid, and that's why you deliberately picked this guy in order to represent the entire argument surrounding this particular game, because it's an easy straw man for everybody else that has genuine complaints about it. The whole fucking Steam charts argument is not even something I've seen going around the people who have genuine complaints when it comes to this game. There are plenty of games that betray the fan base or anger people that still do well financially. I've never made that argument, and I think anybody who is making that argument is stupid. But at the same time, you could acknowledge there's something that people have a problem with and still point out the game is a financial success. I don't understand why it has to be one thing or another. Either people have a genuine complaint and it's a failure, or the game has nothing wrong with it, dude, and everything is defensible and it's doing incredibly well. It can be both at the same time.
But you'd be wrong, because this guy contributes to a publication. I don't know if I should call it a publication. That sounds way too legitimate for them. But he contributes to a thing which writes articles like this: Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 features graphic depiction of child... that right there, bad stuff.
Wait, sodomy is bad? That's pretty homophobic of you, dude. But yeah, obviously the title is extremely inflammatory and not exactly an accurate portrayal, but the information inside of the article itself is pretty factual, in all honesty. It literally just references information that's inside of the game itself.
Which is quite shocking, to be honest. And this article was followed up with a statement that reads, quote, "Watching the entire anti-woke movement rally in unison against the horrible woke fest that is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is a beautiful sight to behold." End quote. Strong stuff, man. Very, very compelling, yeah.
Which is kind of ironic, because a bunch of the typical anti-woke channels are shilling hardcore for this game. So yeah, that's kind of been funny to observe, because if any other game was doing these type of retcons with main characters and the existing lore, people would be all over this shit.
Yeah. Well, the Fandom Pulse Substack, which is what he contributes to, is run by this guy, who claims to be a #1 best-selling author by standing for Christian values. And it turns out he's got a massive thread about how the game is an insult to Christians and gamers. What's more, this entire narrative about the game being woke is propped up and perpetuated by other influencers as well as YouTubers, like this dumbass, who has an entire video about how Warhorse Studios, which was acquired in 2019 by THQ Nordic, which is itself a subsidiary of Embracer Group, was commanded to put the woke agendas in their game. No joke. Because a random guy on Twitter posted an extremely obvious and sarcastic troll tweet.
Yeah, again, this isn't actually addressing the issues themselves. Like, you're talking about everything surrounding the actual issues that people have with the game by cherry-picking a bunch of indefensible examples of fringe individuals making stupid points, while still not actually identifying what the actual problems in the game are. You haven't mentioned that they retconned the sexuality of Henry. You haven't mentioned the fact that they retconned the existence of black people in medieval Bohemia with the character Musa, that quite literally you have to play the role of cuckold to in order to keep romancing a girl in the game. Like, none of this shit is being addressed. There are countless examples too. I'm not getting into every single autistic detail, but he refuses to actually identify what the problems are and why people are actually upset in the first place. Instead, he's just reacting to other people's reactions to being angry, not the actual underlying cause.
Even better, these three, shitsketeers, doubled and tripled down on the idea that Hans, who the character can romance for a skippable cutscene, is 15, because a codex entry says underage in it and gives a historically accurate description of who he was in the real world. Just one issue with that part: the entire game is motion captured by actors who are like 30 plus years old.
Now we're getting into the juicy part of this video, man. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let him finish his entire thought so we can get it all out there, because I really don't want to talk about this any more than I have to, because I'm sure YouTube is going to come down on me with an iron fist if I say anything slightly too edgy here. So we'll dance carefully around this one, but let's go ahead and hear the rest of what he has to say.
Because the video game adaptation has aged them up deliberately like 15 years. And these characters, Henry as well as Hans, have been sleeping around in bathhouses and romancing love interests since the start of the very first game. You actually get a massive buff to your character by sleeping with people, and that's been true this entire time. Notice how the outrage is only focused on the fact that Henry sleeps with Hans, and the supposed underage nature of that relationship, and not the bazillions of women that Hans slept with across the franchise so far.
So I just want to come out and say this because I don't know the exact specifics surrounding this game and the characters and the ages and everything like that, but blanket statement, when it comes to underage characters in a video game, I do not need to see them in a sexually explicit act, period. I don't care how old they are. I don't care how historically accurate it is. I don't think seeing a character under the age of 18, for whatever reason, in a sexually explicit scenario is something I need to witness in my video games, and I don't feel like that's a crazy statement to make. And the entire issue with this, oh, well, the motion capture actors are 30 and the voice actors are 30 or whatever it might be. Yeah, sure, they might be. But why is it that a character who is canonically underage is involved in these type of scenes, regardless of who is voice acting them? This is like literally the 1,000-year-old lolly argument from anime. But anyway, that's beside the point. The main point is Daniel Vavra was given the opportunity to dispel these rumors, to quell this controversy, to clarify that, yeah, the characters are of age. I mean, the actors are 30, so therefore, obviously, the characters in the game are also adults. But when he was pressed on this particular issue, it's very telling how he decided to respond. So someone named Lars, I guess, responded to one of his tweets and said, "If you decide you want a love scene with Hans in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, you are committing pedophilia, because Hans is 15 years old. You can't even make up stuff like that." And Daniel Vavra, choosing not to, dispel these rumors, not to clarify that they're adults, decided to double down and say, imagine that women at the time were married at the age of 12 and had children. They also needed witnesses during first sex. So he doesn't actually dispel the rumors. Instead, he doubles down and defends the fact that Hans is a 15-year-old in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 engaged in those type of activities. So not a good look whatsoever, and I don't really know how else you're supposed to look at it other than this is confirmation for what was actually alleged to be taking place. So yeah, that adds a completely different dimension to this entire scenario. And even if you ignore the entire age issue, it's still a massive retcon on two major characters in the game, not to mention that Hans is based off of a historical figure himself. So now you're retconning actual history and making a guy who is obviously straight gay for the sake of your video game.
On top of that, since we're apparently using the Codex as our immutable truth doctrine, and thus using it to say that the game is showing illegal material, which they've directly claimed, Another one of the game's characters, Sir Markvart, according to this codex, died in 1402, which is a year before the game supposedly takes place. Obviously, this means that codex entries can't be taken at face value because the development team have indisputably deviated from them.
But did his age deviate? Did his personal details deviate? There's different types of deviations, so it's not a one-to-one comparison, but I kind of get where he's coming from. But at the same time, it's still a massive retcon on the existing lore, even if you ignore the entire aspect surrounding the age of the characters. But then when you couple it with the fact that Daniel Vavra had a perfect opportunity to dispel these rumors, he instead doubled down and defended it.
In both a literal and creative sense. There's this bizarre and spreading narrative right now that Kingdom Come Deliverance is a Christian game betraying the gamers. But that's like saying that a rock song which talks about Christianity is a Christian rock song.
I mean, this really isn't a good analogy because there's definitely specific Christian music out there, but I get the point he's trying to make. In the 1400s, obviously Christianity was a massive aspect of daily life back in those days, so I get what he's saying. Just because it's featured in a game doesn't mean it's the underlying and basically primary plot point of the game. The game is not there to promote the Christian faith, which I actually agree with personally. That obviously is not the intent of Kingdom Come Deliverance, but it is inherently Christian in a lot of its themes and obviously the setting, so it kind of goes both ways. I mean, shit, Warhorse Studios literally said themselves that one of Henry's biggest defining characteristics is the fact that he is a Christian male, so yeah, take that as you will.
Christian rock, by the way, is its own genre, obviously, and just because a song decided to talk about a Christian setting or Christian themes or Christianity in general, it doesn't turn the final product into a whole new genre. Remember that earlier example, Hogwarts Legacy. With Hogwarts Legacy, a group of, I'm trying to not be overly insulting right now, a group of extremely dishonest people who really had no actual interest in the game itself attempted to boycott the product because they didn't like some sort of perceived social slight against them, and they failed.
And therein lies the biggest issue with this comparison, is the people who are the most upset with Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in a lot of cases are the actual fans of the franchise. They're the people, like you acknowledged in your initial review, were brought in by the controversy where games journos were bashing the game for being quote-unquote racist, dude. So, yeah, the people who wanted to buy this game are actually the harshest critics in this particular instance. Like, sure, there's a few grifters out there that are latching onto this who had no genuine interest in it whatsoever, acting like they're the world's biggest fan of the franchise and everything like that. But that is not the vast majority, and this attempt to paint that entire demographic of people by the actions of 2 or 3 dumbasses is beyond disingenuous.
Completely, because the game was good. With Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, a group of extremely dishonest people are attempting to boycott the product because they don't like some sort of perceived slight against their worldview.
That's right, guys. He spends an entire 15-minute video lecturing you about how you're just dishonest if you don't like this game, but refuses to actually acknowledge the genuine problems and complaints that people have with all the various retcons surrounding the lore of the second game versus the first one. But, you know, we're the dishonest ones for pointing it out.
In this case, a gay romance scene, and they're failing. Remember how everyone laughed at the idiots who were angry over Hogwarts Legacy? I mean, like, we all laughed at them, okay? Yeah, that's you. That's the people boycotting Kingdom Come Deliverance. That is you.
Again, these scenarios are not even remotely similar. One group of people, like you acknowledge, had no interest in buying the game. The other group is actually made up of the game's core fan base. And yes, the game is doing well financially. Anybody trying to deny that is being disingenuous, like yourself, just for a different reason. But the Hogwarts Legacy boycotters and the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 boycotters are not even remotely similar, because the Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 boycotters, last time I checked, are not doxing people who dare to play the game game on Twitch. They're not leaking people's private details and swatting them and trying to get their channels taken down and banned off the internet. So a little bit difference of severity. I mean, last time I checked, Hogwarts Legacy boycotters literally made an entire website dedicated to people that played that quote wizard game in order to try and publicly shame people who dared to play Hogwarts Legacy. So I don't really think this is even remotely similar. I have not seen any type of that behavior whatsoever, but hey, maybe it's out there, but definitely not on the same fucking scale. That's for sure.
We're laughing at you, just like we laughed at them. You are idiots like they are idiots, okay? Don't be an idiot.
That's right, guys. Eat your bug burgers, consume a slop, and don't ask questions. If you point out objective retcons with a game that he likes, you're just an idiot, dude.
At the end of the day, it's the exact same basic phenomenon, just new flavors. You can decide for yourself whether or not it's better or worse, but let's not pretend it's wildly different. Two groups of people, for different reasons, decided that a video game should conform to their worldview.
I mean, you're forgetting the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 was literally advertised towards people's worldview. The developers of the game went to war with the game's media to defend their worldview. You're acting like this is happening in a fucking vacuum where we don't have an entire history of the previous game literally standing up for all the shit you're ridiculing people for standing up for now. So it's very fucking funny. So again, if the retcons weren't there and this was all in the game from the very beginning, I think we would have a very different reaction. The problem is the developers in the past made it a point to publicly defend the fact that they were not including all of the shit that they are now, and now they're attacking the fan base for pointing out their hypocrisy and the changes that were made from part 1 to part 2. As things sit right now, it looks like the developers literally grifted off of right-wingers in order to sell their game in the first place, and now that they have financial success, they're throwing them all under the bus and betraying them, essentially. So I 100% get why people are upset over this. Personally, I don't really care about this franchise that much, but I definitely remember this game leaning into the culture war heavily in order to garner sales with people, which you even acknowledge in your review you did 6 years ago on this very game, that Warhorse Studios leveraged the culture war issues surrounding their original game in order to generate more sales. That is an indisputable fact, and now they want to act like they never fucking did that shit. Well, too fucking late, you did, and everybody remembers it.
To make that happen, they're inventing things and stretching the truth, trying to bludgeon those around them socially into conforming. And I'm not sure about all of you, but I'm kind of a contrarian, obviously, so
yeah, while you regurgitate the most normie slop opinion imaginable on this game you could possibly come up with. It doesn't matter, dude. It's an option. Just ignore it and consume the product, man. At least be an interesting contrarian like shit.
when someone starts using deceptive tactics to make me do or think whatever they want, I don't respond very well to it.
That must be why you're getting eviscerated in the comments section, because that's exactly what you did to everyone you talked about in this particular video that disagrees with you.
It doesn't matter if it's a puritanical movement that doesn't want games to feature any of the choices that they disagree with, or if it's some sort of diversity quota that seems hell-bent on supplanting existing narratives to push their ideology, which is also bad.
You mean like retconning the inclusion of different races and gay romance options? I mean, you're literally defining what Warhorse Studios did, but you're trying to use that against the people who don't like. I mean, this is absolutely fucking hilarious, man. This has to be either the dumbest motherfucker on planet Earth or the most disingenuous one, because there's no in-between in this particular instance. Like, how the fuck could you be that blind to what's happening to where you try and pin exactly what's happening with the developer on the actual end consumer? Like, this is pure projection at this point.
Because for me, both of these groups are equally frustrating when they gain power and do this dumb shit to the games that I like.
You mean like retconning romance options and making characters bisexual or gay that weren't previously? Wow, that sounds familiar. Who did that one?
A lot has changed in the past few years, and now it's a little bit surreal watching the anti-woke types suddenly start doing and saying all these things that are so closely echoing what their woke enemies did before them. Hopefully we can all get a little bit more self-awareness from this, because doing all the things that you used to cry out against is probably not the solution. Bottom line, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has nothing to do with woke ideology.
then why was it included? Why was it changed? Why does it even need to be in the game in the first place if it's of zero consequence, has no impact whatsoever, and means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things? Why is it there if it's of zero consequence whatsoever? This is where that entire argument completely falls apart, because the reason it's in the game over any other type of content that they could have done, like enterable churches, for example, which the game cut compared to the first one. You can go inside of a synagogue, though, interpret that as you will. So instead of prioritizing resources to do that type of stuff, they decided to include a gay romance option that retconned the existing lore of the first game. I wonder why they did that. Must just be a coinkydink, right?
I've played it for like 40 or so hours so far, encountered literally none of that stuff, with the weirdest thing being a bandit who said trust but verify, which made me sort of laugh because I think that's a Ronald Reagan quote maybe. And the people who are outraged over this are a joke. Their logic is non-existent. I mean, maybe they're just doing it for profit, which seems more and more likely because, I mean, intellectually, no one can defend the positions that these people are taking.
Because you didn't actually address the real positions people are taking. You cherry-picked 3 dumbasses who made stupid points and then used that to represent the entire group of people that have an issue with this game. So yes, when you cherry-pick dumbasses, of course they're not going to be able to defend themselves in terms of an actual argument. The problem is it's not the arguments that are being made by the general population of people that don't like the game. This is beyond disingenuous, man, at the very fucking least, and honestly, it feels more malicious than anything else. You can feel the genuine anger in this video towards people insulting his favorite game of the month.
To criticize this game. Like, it's indefensible, but whatever. They're just a new, morally self-obsessed version of the same problem that video games have been grappling with for so many years, which is people that don't even play the games trying to dictate what's in those games. It is, with as much emphasis as I can possibly put on this word, dumb. It is dumb.
Well, that pretty much sums up the video as well, guys. So I guess the key takeaway is don't insult the game that I like or else you're an idiot and dumb, essentially. And then I'll completely misrepresent the points that are being made in opposition of said game in order to, you know, further defend my straw man position. But anyway, guys, that is going to do it for this YouTube video today. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of old Upper Echelon gamers and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Personally, I did not enjoy the first game, so I will not be buying this one, and especially after all the shit that we found out about this game post-launch. But anyway, would love to hear your take on this entire situation. If you did make it this far, this was definitely a long one, so I do appreciate it. You guys are real ones if you did make it to the very end. So make sure to drop a like on this video. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, I do want to thank you all so much for taking the time out of your day to check out this video and for all the recent support as well. There will be plenty of videos coming in the future because we're starting to get a regular release cadence, so I'm going to get back into reviewing some of these bigger new release titles. I'll probably review Avowed next, so keep an eye out for that one, man. I'm sure it's going to be boatloads of fun. But anyways, you guys are the fucking best. Really appreciate all the support on the channel. Make sure to hit that like button on the way out, and I will catch you guys next time.